Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So today we have some more payments going out to certain recipients of Social Security. We're going to be going over who those people are, as well as the rest of the payment schedule this month in May. And then we're also going to be looking forward towards June as well, where recipients of SSI are actually going to be getting 2 payments in the month of June. We'll be going over those dates as well. Also, we're going to be going over a quick update regarding the whole debt ceiling debacle, where yesterday we actually had some pretty good news where apparently some progress might have been made. We're going to be going over what both sides are saying in regards to that. And remember, this is very important because if they're not able to raise the debt ceiling by June, those June Social Security payments could actually be delayed by maybe a day or two, possibly even more. So we're going to be going over the news updates on that as well. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm. And also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so again, yesterday at the White House, they had another pretty big meeting, the first time since last week, where we actually had the president and Joe Biden, the vice president and Kamala Harris, and then the top 4 congressional leaders all meeting in the same room trying to hammer things out before Joe Biden left for his trip for the G7 summit, which is going to be today over in Japan. Now, he's actually going to cut the second half of that trip a little bit short, so he's actually only going to be going over to Japan. He was supposed to head down to Australia after that, but he's actually going to be coming back a little bit early, actually on Sunday, and then between he's going to be calling back, I guess, to the White House to see how the negotiations are going. So from here, we're actually going to have a close ally of Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, taking over for Kevin McCarthy, and that person is going to be negotiating with 2 of Biden's top aides, the people that he's putting in charge, and they're going to try to hammer out the rest of the deal. Now, apparently they are getting a little bit closer. After the big meeting yesterday, they said things went a whole lot better than their first meeting last week. A lot of this was pretty much thanks to their staff taking over from Wednesday through over the weekend last week. I guess they were able to get a lot closer. Their first meeting, they pretty much just argued and yelled at each other the whole time. They didn't really make any progress. And this is extremely important because McCarthy says that by the end of this week, they must come to some sort of an agreement to have the time to actually sit down and write the bill, pass it through the House, pass it through the Senate, and get it to Joe Biden's desk. And they also came to an agreement that from now on, we're not going to have any senators, negotiating with this. From now on, it's going to be between McCarthy and his aides and the White House and their aides. And they hope to reach an agreement. If they're able to reach an agreement, great, maybe they can pass the bill. But at the same time, maybe those 2 sides will reach an agreement, but they won't be able to pass it through the Democratic-controlled Senate. So we'll just have to wait and see. But according to CNBC, progress made in White House debt limit meeting, talks to continue as U.S. rushes to prevent default. So President Joe Biden and House Republicans remained far apart Tuesday following an hour-long meeting on the debt ceiling in the Oval Office that all 4 top congressional leaders attended. But attendees said they made progress, including through an agreement to turn the multilateral debt limit negotiations into direct one-to-one talks between a close ally of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and 2 White House aides on Biden's behalf. Quote, "That doesn't mean we're going to get an agreement," McCarthy told reporters after the meeting, but he said there was, quote, "now a better process overall." So McCarthy isn't really that much more optimistic, but I guess things are certainly moving forward. Biden told reporters he is often tasked with addressing multiple things at once, and he feels confident the negotiations will progress even as he attends the G7 summit, which again is today. He said, quote, "There's still work to do, but I made it clear to the speaker and others that we'll speak regularly over the next several days, and the staff's going to continue meeting daily to make sure we do not default." The president said he was disappointed congressional Republicans have been unwilling to discuss, quote, "raising revenues," but progress is being made. So basically, Biden wanted to discuss raising taxes on certain Americans in order to balance the budget, but Republicans are pretty much saying this is a non-starter. Raising taxes is something that Republicans are not wanting to do. Then we had Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying it was a good and productive meeting, who noted that it was more cordial than a previous meeting last week. He said, quote, "Having a bipartisan bill in both chambers is the only way we're going to avoid a default." So this is a strike contrast to what Schumer was saying last week, where he was pretty much saying that Republicans need to raise the debt ceiling without any type of negotiations. Now he's saying that it needs to be a bipartisan bill for this to have any chance of passing and raising of the debt ceiling. So we can see the Democrats are, moving towards negotiation with Republicans. Things are definitely getting closer. Democrats are now showing willingness to negotiate with the Republican Party. So, of course, this is going to be good news in regards to having a chance of actually passing this bill, raising the debt ceiling, and making sure that we don't have a complete economic collapse next month, and then also have other things impacting as well, such as possibly Social Security payments being delayed going out. Now, the main hang-up in their negotiations right now, pretty much everything else is hammered out for the most part, but the main hang-up is the fact that Republicans want to have stricter work requirements for certain federal programs such as SNAP benefits and Medicaid. So for SNAP benefits, what they're wanting to do is make it so Americans up to the age of 56, from 50 to 56, they have to work at least 20 hours per week. Now, this is for people who are, able-bodied adults and also have no dependents. Kevin McCarthy and other Republicans say this is very reasonable. Democrats are like, I don't know if we should be cutting back on benefits and being, this is going to harm Americans quite a bit. And, Democrats also don't want to have these work requirements for people to receive Medicaid either. So that's pretty much the main hang up at this point in time. And according to The Hill, McCarthy is saying that work requirements are a red line in debt ceiling talks. So in other words, this is something that definitely needs to end up in the bill if McCarthy and the Republican Party and Republicans are going to pass this bill. So Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday said work requirements for public assistance programs are a non-negotiable in debt ceiling talks, laying out one of his first hard stances ahead of an afternoon meeting with President Biden and other top congressional leaders. Asked whether work requirements were a red line for him in debt ceiling negotiations, McCarthy said, quote, "Yes, it is." McCarthy said that he is standing firm on work requirements for the programs despite House Democrats being against the idea. He said, quote, "When you're talking about work requirements, remember what we're talking about, able-bodied people with no dependents." Biden had seemed to open the door over the weekend to beefing up work requirements for public assistance programs. He said, quote, "I voted for tougher aid programs that's in the law now, but for Medicaid, it's a very different story. And so I'm waiting to hear what their exact proposal is." So for Biden, maybe for SNAP benefits, he might be willing to beef up the work requirements. For Medicaid, more than likely, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get Biden and, of course, other Democrats to agree. Now, moving into some other news, of course, today we have more Social Security payments rolling out. We're going to be going over who are going to be receiving these payments. So according to Marca, second Social Security payment, who gets their payment today? And of course, the people who are going to be receiving the payment today of around $1,800 on average, is going to be going to those born between the 11th and 20th. These payments are going to be made on the third Wednesday of the month, which of course the third Wednesday in May is today, May 17th. So up on the screen, we can see the payment schedule there. We know that payments went out last week on May 10th. Those were going to those born between the 1st and the 10th of any given month. But today is going to be going to those born between the 11th and 20th of any given month. So if that's your criteria, you'd be getting your payment today. Again, those are going to be around $1,827 on average. And then the final payment will be going out next week on May 24th. Those are going to be going to those born between the 21st and the 31st of any given month. Now, quickly looking ahead to June, on the 1st of June, recipients of SSI are going to be receiving their first payment of the month. It's going to be their first payment since May 1st. And then actually on June 30th, recipients of SSI are going to be receiving their second payment. So that's going to be super exciting stuff. But of course, you must remember, just because you're receiving two payments in June, it also means you're not going to be receiving a single payment in the month of July. So just keep that in mind. That's because July 1st is going to be falling on a Saturday. And anytime the first of a month falls on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a holiday, you're actually going to be receiving your SSI payment the previous day on the Friday before. Now, of course, on the 2nd, you're also going to be receiving another payment. It's going to be going to those on Social Security. So if you received Social Security before May of 1997, or if you're receiving both Social Security and SSI, you'd be receiving your payment on the 2nd. These are normally going out on the 3rd, but since the 3rd of June falls on a Saturday, you're going to be receiving that payment a little bit earlier. And then the rest of the payment dates in June are going to be June 14th, June 21st, and June 28th. Same concept here, 2nd Wednesday, 3rd Wednesday, and 4th Wednesday of the month, depending on when you were born. So those are going to be the payment dates for the months of May and June, but that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could go ahead and give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.